Imagine reaching into your pocket for a simple penny, the kind most people barely glance at before tossing it into a jar, and discovering that the tiny copper coin between your fingers could be worth more than your entire retirement. It sounds impossible, but collectors across America were stunned when certain examples of a very ordinary-looking coin began selling for staggering amounts of money. The coin. A simple 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. And in rare cases, the right one has shocked collectors with values climbing to worth $1,200 or more. That's right. 1 single cent. A coin most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the sidewalk. And yet that very coin could be sitting in your pocket right now, quietly waiting to change the way you look at pocket change forever. What makes this story even more incredible is how these coins are being discovered, not in museums, not locked away in bank vaults, but in tip jars, coin rolls, old dresser drawers, and dusty boxes inherited from relatives who never imagined their spare change might hold hidden treasure. A man in Illinois once told a story that still circulates among coin collectors. Today, he had been rolling pennies from a jar he kept on top of his refrigerator. Every few months, he'd take the jar to the bank, turn it into a few dollars, and start over again. But one evening, while sorting through the coins under a kitchen light, one penny caught his attention. It looked slightly brighter than the others. The date read 1977. Nothing unusual there, but beneath the date, something was missing. No mint mark. Now to most people, that means absolutely nothing. But to collectors, the tiny detail of a mint mark can change everything. That penny didn't go to the bank. Instead, curiosity got the better of him. He took it to a small local coin shop just to see if it was interesting. The dealer leaned forward, grabbed a magnifying loupe, and stared at the coin for nearly 20 seconds without saying a word. Then he smiled, because that little coin had something special about it, and the story of why begins decades earlier. Back in 1909, the United States Mint introduced one of the most famous coin designs in American history. The Lincoln cent. The design was created by sculptor Victor David Brenner and featured the calm, familiar profile of President Abraham Lincoln facing to the right. It was the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure rather than a symbolic image like Lady Liberty. For generations, Americans carried that design in their pockets every single day. By 1977, the Lincoln cent had become so common that most people barely noticed it anymore. The coin was made from a copper alloy that gave it that warm reddish tone when fresh from the mint. Over time, the surface would darken, turning chocolate brown as the metal reacted with air and oils from people's hands. And in that year alone, hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies were produced. Some were struck in Philadelphia, some were struck in Denver, and a smaller number were struck in San Francisco as proof coins for collectors. The ones made in Denver carry a tiny D mint mark under the date. Proof coins from San Francisco carry an S. But the coins struck in Philadelphia, in 1977, carried no mint mark at all. At first glance, that sounds completely ordinary. Because for most of the 20th century, Philadelphia coins didn't use mint marks. But here's where the story starts to get interesting. Because not all 1977 no mint mark pennies are created equal. Some were struck perfectly, billions of them. But others slipped through the mint with strange little imperfections that collectors dream about. And those tiny imperfections can turn a 1-cent coin into something worth hundreds, sometimes over $1,000, one of the most exciting varieties. Collectors' search for is known as a double die. Imagine the massive steel die that stamps the design onto a blank coin. If that die shifts slightly during its creation, the design elements can appear doubled. Not dramatically, but just enough that under magnification, the letters and numbers look like they have shadows. On a 1977 penny, that doubling can sometimes be seen in the words Liberty, or I in God we trust, or even along the numbers in the date. When light hits the coin at the right angle, those letters almost seem to shimmer, like a ghost image sitting just beside the original. To an untrained eye, it might look like damage, but to a collector, it's a signal that the coin might be something very special. And that brings us back to the man in Illinois. The dealer examining his coin noticed a faint but clear doubling on the word Liberty, not dramatic, but unmistakable. He offered the man $300 on the spot, for a penny. Naturally, the man thought the dealer was joking, but after sending the coin to be authenticated and graded, it returned in a protective holder with confirmation that it was indeed a double die variety. That coin eventually sold for over $900 at auction. And that was only the beginning, because other rare versions of the 1977 no-mint mark penny have appeared over the years. Some coins show off center strikes where the blank planchet wasn't properly aligned when the die came down. The result is a design that appears shifted, leaving a crescent-shaped blank area along the edge. These dramatic mint errors are instantly recognizable, and collectors love them. Other coins reveal die cracks that snake across Lincoln's portrait like tiny lightning bolts in copper. Still others show what collectors call die clashes, where the dies struck each other without a coin between them, leaving faint outlines of design elements in unexpected places. Each of these errors is like a fingerprint from the minting process, a moment where something went slightly wrong and created something unexpectedly rare. Now imagine the texture of that coin in your hand, the surface slightly rough from decades of circulation, the raised edge forming a protective rim around Lincoln's profile, the warm copper tone catching the light as you tilt it back and forth. Look closely at the date, 1977. Then glance just beneath it. If there's no mint mark, you're holding a Philadelphia issue, and that's exactly the type collectors examine most carefully, because while millions were made, only a tiny fraction show the kinds of errors that drive collectors wild. In 2019, one particularly well-preserved 1977 no-mint mark penny graded MS-66 red sold for nearly $1,000. The coin looked almost brand new, glowing with that original mint luster collectors call red copper. Most pennies darken over time, but when one survives decades with that brilliant color intact, it becomes extremely desirable. Then came another sale that caught the attention of the collecting world. A high-grade example with strong doubling and exceptional surfaces crossed the auction block and sold for just over $1,200. Not bad for a coin that originally bought a piece of bubble gum. Stories like these keep collectors searching, because the most exciting part of this entire story is that these coins were never removed from circulation. They were spent, dropped into vending machines, mixed into bank rolls, scooped into piggy banks, and forgotten for years. Right now, somewhere in America, a jar of pennies is sitting on a shelf. Inside that jar could be dozens, maybe hundreds, of ordinary coins, but hidden among them could be one single penny that carries the right air, the right condition, the right combination of details to make collectors compete fiercely to own it. And that's the magic of coin collecting. History doesn't always hide in museums. Sometimes it hides in the smallest, most overlooked places: a pocket, a coin tray, a jar, on the kitchen counter. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it, pick it up. Turn it over in the light, look at the date, 1977. Then check beneath it. If there's no mint mark, take a closer look, examine the letters, study the shine, watch for doubling, cracks, or strange misalignments, because people are still finding these coins today. And the next unbelievable discovery might not happen in an auction house or a collector's convention. It might happen in your own living room, when you finally decide to check your change, and that simple penny you almost spent might turn out to be the coin everyone else was searching for.